Okay, we're up to the Mishnah on Daf Yotes Amid Aleph. Mishnah Daf Tes Yud Aleph. A good Erev Shabbos to all. Says the Mishnah, Ben Ir Shaholach Lekrach. Now let's just go over. We know that there was people laying on the 14th. That's the normal. People in Ori Prazos. That's the common for all. There's the two unique places. There's the Bate Ori Choimem Yeshuas Binun, what we call a Ben Krach, and they lay on the 15th. And then there was the Ben Kfar. Those are the villages. And they would lay either on the 11th, 12th, 13th, right, to facilitate that because they would provide food for us, we gave them a kula that they don't have to come special, that they can read on the 11th, 12th, and 13th. So now the shiler is you're a 14 guy and you find yourself on a 15 city. Says the Gemara, Ben Ir Shaholach Lekrach, he goes to a 15, or Ben Krach Shaholach Leir, or he's a 15 that goes to a 14. Im Asid Lachsar. If in the future he's going to go back, Lemkomo to his place, then Koru Kimkomo, he goes according to his place. Then Lav Kari Mahim. If he's not going to go back to this place, he reads among them. So L'chaira, the Gemara is going to go ahead and fill in the blanks over here. Guys, this is a very, very, very difficult sugya, way beyond the scope of Daf Yomi. As we do it, I'll share with you what the Chafetz Chaim says about the sugya. Where's the person have to go ahead and read? You have to read the whole Megillah. Rabbi Yehuda Omer me Ish Yehudi from Perik Beis, from Ish Yehudi Hayu B'Shushan Abira. Rabbi Yossi Omer me Achad Var Me'ela Perik Gimel. I'm going to see a third opinion in the Gemara, even from Perik Vav. So the first end of the Mishnah is a 14 that goes to a 15, or a 15 goes to a 14. And we said if his mind is to go back to his city, then what? You go after his mindset. Says the Gemara, Amar of Aloy Shanu, that you're 14 in a 15 city, that you go back, Elisha Asid Lachsar, Beleli Yudalit. In other words, I'm a 14, and I'm a 14, or I'm a 15, and I'm in a 14 city. I'm a 15 in a 14 city, and now I should be a 15 guy, but I find myself in a 14 city. So if the night of the 14th, let's say Purim is on Wednesday. So Tuesday night, the Leil 14, Tuesday night. If your das is to leave on 14, in other words, you're going to leave before Amud HaShachar, even though by Hierev Yivokia we begin the night before, since before morning Alois HaShachar breaks, you're on your way to the 15th, you're not going to lay on the 14th. However, if your das is to go back, and nonetheless you leave after Amud HaShachar, and you're there in the 14, then you lay on the 14th. One more time. You're a 14 guy in a 15 city. And now you find yourself, it's the day of the 13th, and now it's going into the night of the 14th. And the next day, Wednesday, is the 14th. If your das is to leave before Wednesday morning, before Alais, even though you're there the evening of the 14th when they lay in the night, and then you go and lay on the 15th. However, conversely, if you are a 14 that goes to a 15, a 14 goes to a 15. So if your das is on the night of, if you're going to go ahead and be chayza on the 15th, that you shouldn't be there on the 15th. You're going to be, your das is not to be on the 15th. You would lay in 14 alone. If your das is, again, if you're 14, it's that day, right? And now your das is to leave that city before let's say, our scenario, your dalit is Wednesday night is 15, Thursday is 15. So if your das is to leave before the morning of the 15th, then you would lay in alone on the 14th. Conversely, if on the other hand, you're going to leave on the morning after Alois, then you would lay not on the 14th, you'd wait to the 15th. So it works both ways. Amar Rav Shanu el shasa lachsa below your dalit. Avla ein asa lachsa below abu asa karmini mahem. Then you would read with the people of the cities. Amar Rav Amina, where I know this from the Chsiv. Al kain haYehudim haPrazim haYoshvim ba'ari haPrazos. Therefore, it says the Jews that are of open cities, that live in open cities. It says, it seems redundant, guys. HaYehudim haPrazim haYoshvim ba'ari haPrazos. Right? That it seems redundant. I know they are Ari Prazim. You just said that. Michti ksiv haYehudim haPrazim lamali lemichtav. Why do you have to write haYoshvim ba'ari haPrazos? After the Gemara HaKamash Malon. The paras ben yaimai nikra paras. If a guy is a ben yaimai, meaning even for one day is a ben yaimai, because by our voice he was in the fourth city. Then even though he's a 15 guy, we're going to call him an open city guy. You guys are here. This is unique halacha. I live in Yerushalayim, and I find myself in a 14, and I'm a Yerushalayim Dika Yid. I wear the mamish, the whole garb. I go to Meisharim, and I'm the man. But I find myself in a 14. And I know I'm going to leave on the 15th in the morning, then I become a 14 guy, which is a huge chiddush. It's a huge chiddush, guys. Why? Because the Megillah calls me, maybe there's a show guy, is the queen for a day. There's a show, a queen for a day. So this is, I'm a Ben Paris for a day. For one day, I'm a Ben Paris. I live in Yerushalayim. No, the pasuk's teaching me, you can create, vis-a-vis this halacha, one day. You're a one-day guy. Ben Paris. Now, what about 15 the other way around, where you're 14 and 15? What about that? That's 14 going 15 and 14. What about the other way around? Right. Ashchin Paris mukif minalan. How do you know a 15 finds himself? How do you know a 14 finds himself on a 15? Svarahu. Mid the Paris ben Yomi Kari Paris, when even though he's in an open city for a day, a 15th to a 14th, Mukif ben Yoimai Kari Mukif. A person that there's a 14 and a 15. If he finds himself in the walled city for a day, he's called a walled city. Okay? Rava. Okay, Ben Kfar. Now let's say, guys, he's a 11, 12, 13 guy. Right? He's 11, 12, 13 guy. Shahalach le'ir, who goes to the 14th, the city of the 14th. Ben Kach or Ben Kach, whether his das is to return or not to return. In other words, that Rav is halacha, guys, of what? Of I'm being there by Leisa Shachar or not. He reads on the 14th. So, guys, listen to this. He read on the 11th. He finds himself in the city on the 14th. He reads again on the 14th. My time, what's the reason? Hi Kibbenei boy Limikri. He has to read like the people of the city. Really, there's no such thing as an 11, 12, 13. There's only a 14 or a 15. How do you get to be 11, 12, 13? Is Rabbanon hu dekila kfarim kidei sheyaspiku mayim mazon lachem. We changed the girsa. Not that because they provide, right? Because not in order that they should provide, but because they provide, we'll make them on them. But this person obviously finds himself, right? So hani mili kiyasi beduchte. That's when he's in his place. If he's in the boondocks, then on the 14th, then he doesn't have to come in. But once he's already in the city, then he goes back to his original halacha, which is a 14. There really isn't 11, 12, 13. It's a kula. Since he goes ahead and provides food for them, we're makel that we don't make him come back. But once he's there already, it's not a matter of coming back. He's in the 14. So Mamela laying on the 14th. Mamela laying on the 14th. Right?
And a bracha of Atala because he heard already on the 11th?
No, it wasn't a bracha of Atala. Again, there's the chiyuv now. There's a new chiyuv. At that time that we will make on him, he leans the Megillah as the chiyuv, and that's it. Okay. That's when he finds himself 11, 12, 13. Now again, so we have this lacha of Ben Kfar. Now listen to this. Now Ben Krach means he's a 15. Shaholach le'ir, who goes to a 14. Ben Kach Koirukim Kaimai. He's going to lay on the 15th, which apparently is a stira to our Mishnah, correct? Our Mishnah is not taking into account Oymid Lachsar. This Brisa is not taking into account Oymid Lachsar, not Oymid Lachsar. We're just dealing with the chiyuv of the person. What am I? I'm a 15 guy. But we just had a whole limud from that. You can be a Ben Yomi, a Paris Ben Yomi, right? So this doesn't seem to be correct. This Brisa is saying we don't look at where you are. We look at what you are. We don't look at the place. We look at the chiyuv gavra. I'm a Yerushalayim Dika Yid. I will always land on the 15th. Right? That's what it says. Ben Krach, a Yerushalayim Dika Yid, a 15 guy. Shaholach le'ir goes to a 14. Ben Kach, whether his das is to leave or not to leave. Karikim Koima, he goes ahead and reads on the 15th. Ben Krach Sakadaitach. Ben Masil Lachsa. 1 second. Has nothing to do with the chiyuv of the person. It has to do whether his das is to go back or not, right? If his das is to go back, then he reads in the 15th. And if his das is not to go back and he finds himself after Alois, according to Rashi, in a 14, he's going to land on 14. So this apparently can't be the correct brisa. Ella, let's go ahead and let's edit the brisa. Don't say Ben Krach, say Elalav Ben Kfar. Say the following. Ben Kfar, a villager, always reads on the day of his village. So if it's an 11, 12, 13, whatever it is, a lane. So how can you rather say that a villager, a ben kfar, lanes on the 14th, we have a brisa that similarly says that a ben kfar lanes on the day that he's supposed to lane on, 11, 12, or 13, not like you, Rava. And it's a brisa that you can't argue with Rava. Right, guys? You hear the kasha. One more time. Says Rava, if he's a village guy, again, we discussed Yudalid, we discussed your Tesvav. We're now discussing an 11, 12, 13 guy. So 11, 12, 13 guy, if he finds himself in the 14th, he lands in the 14th. That's it. Nothing else. Even though he landed on 11, 12, it doesn't make a difference. He's landing on the 14th. Good. Because the whole reason doesn't apply that he should land. The whole reason 11, 12 is a cooler, not to make him come up. But once he came up already, he goes back to his initial din, which is what? Being a 14 guy. Because there's no 11, 12. It's a cooler. Freg the Baya, I have a brisa, and with a little tweaking, twicking of the brisa, what's the word? Tweak. All right. With an E, tweak, right. With a little tweaking of the brisa, I can create a kasha. What does it say? A 15 who finds himself in a 14 lanes on the 15th. That's what it says. That can't mean that brisa can't be correct, because that brisa doesn't take into account whether his das is to go back or not, which the Mishnah does. So therefore, it must not mean a ben 15. It must be a village guy. It must be 11, 12, 13. Why does it say 11, 12, 13 lanes according to his place, meaning 11, 12, and 13, not like you Rava 14? Rava gives a great teretz, guys. For lav terutzli misratzta, tani kari mahem. 1 second. You tweaked the brisa once, correct? You took the word ben krach and you said it doesn't mean krach, it means kfar. So obviously this brisa wasn't edited well. Once it's not edited well, the Resha, go ahead, we can edit the Sefer. What did we say? Don't say Koira bim Komo, say Kora imahem. He reads according to the place that he finds himself in. So now the Brisa reads exactly like Rava. Here, we're going to tweak the Brisa twice, guys. Let's go back to the Brisa. Esve Abaya, Ben Krach, let's tweak it now. Ben Kfar, Shaholach Le'ir, Ben Kachu, Ben Kach, Koira imahem. Right? He reads what? He reads among them. Whether his das is to go back or not, we don't care. He's 11, 12, he raised on the 14th. That's it. So in other words, once you're tweaking, I'll tweak also. So it's not a kasha on me. Regarding this halacha that we just did, that I just popped through, they bring the halacha in Tafresh Peches. There's a very long Mishnah Berurah here. There's a bir halacha here. But why I'm bringing it in, listen to the lashon of the bir halacha. Says the bir halacha, the Chavetz Chaim. Umikomakim lemaisa ani mavakesh me'akoirei. Says the Chavetz Chaim, lemaisa lahalacha. I ask from the person who's reading this, shelo yismach alai. Don't be samich on me. Guys, you hear this? It's the Mishnah Berurah who wrote this halacha lemaisa. Who wrote this? Guys, look. I'll give you the source. Taf Rei Peish Ches. It's the bir halacha on Siman Hey. Look at the bir halacha; it's fascinating. So he says that, like it said, "Mikomaken lemaisa ani mevakesh me'akoirei shlo yismach alai le'inyan bracha v'yayim b'primagodim v'ayim b'shilti giborim." He says, "Le'inyan bracha about this. Don't be samich on me." So again, it gives you a little fascination about how difficult this halacha is. But guess what? This is Daf Yomi, so we do what we do, right? Vaita in Torah Yerushalayim. Guys, we're good? Okay, let's go weiter. Okay, we said in the Mishnah, there were 3 opinions as to what you have to hear to be Yaitza. Rameir's opinion, you have to hear the whole Megillah. You have to hear the whole Megillah, which is how we paskin. We have the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, that is Yehudi. We have the opinion of Rabbi Yossi from Achar Avarim Ma'ela, Perik Gimel. And here's the 4th opinion. Tanya Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai Omer, Mibalayla Hahu. Layla Hahu is Perik Vav. So if you're passing like Shimon Bar Yochai, the Megillah Leni will be a lot quicker, right? You start from Perik, the 6th Perik, right? And then you have these guys that can say, I learned the Megillah in 5 minutes rather than 22 minutes or whatever it is, They take pride in zooming through the Megillah. They all darshan from the same pasuk. Each one of these 4 opinions dashes from the same pasuk. So let's go over the 4 opinions together. The whole thing, Ish Yehudi, Achad Varim Eila, or B'layla Hahu. It says, Vatichtei Vesta Hamalka, Umordechai Yehudi, it's called Toikif. they write the whole toikif and the toikif of the Megillah, and then it says l'kayim igeres hapurim al toikif. L'kayim igeres hapurim al toikif. The toikif, guys, means tkifa, it means strong, it means strength. Means whose strength are we discussing? When it says to write, the lashon is a funny lashon. Whose strength we were discussing as kol igeres. The igeres is the Megillah. The igeres, the Megillah. What's the toikif of the Megillah that I have to read to be yotze this igeres? Right? What's the toikif? So Manda Amakula, Rabbi who says the whole thing, toikif shel Achashverosh. We're speaking about the strength of Achashverosh, which we begin showing his richness. Umanda Amame Ish Yehudi, right? And the one who says from Ish Yehudi, toikif shel Mordechai. That would be the toikif wad of Mordechai, right? That would be Mordechai Ish Yehudi, his strength when he came to power. Umandi Amame Achad Var Meila, toikif shel Haman. That's Achad Ve'ela, the Haman was raised, right? So therefore, Umandi Amame V'layla Hu, Lo B'shur B'yachai, toikif shel Nes, which again, the Nes went into effect the night where Achashverosh couldn't sleep, and consequently Haman ended up being killed. Okay, so now those are the three pshatim. So who's the toikif? Whether it's the toikif of Achashverosh, of Mordechai, of Haman, or of the Nes. Okay, there's a second opinion. The pasuk says, one second, let me get my Megillah. It says in Perik Tes, pasuk of Vav, Al Kain Karu LaYom Eila Purim, Al Shem HaPur, Al Kain Al Kol Divrei Oigeres Hazois. Now, guys, listen to this. Umara'u 1, Al Kacha 2, Umahagia. Mara'u, what did they see? Al Kacha, and as a result, Divrei Hagia Aleim. This is what happened. So there's three things. There's the word Mara'u. There's al kocha as a result of that, because, and then magiu, what in the end happened. You'll understand it clearly as we go through it. So again, we're coming to explain the three shittas, either why you have to learn the whole Megillah, why you learn from Ish Yehudi, or you learn from Achad V'Meila, or why you learn B'Laylahu. Says the Gemara. Rav Huna Amar Mehacha. Uma Ra'u 1, al kocha 2, Uma Hagia Aleim 3. Madi Amakula Mara Achashverosh and Ishtamish B'Kelim Shel Beis Hamikdash. What is Mara'o? What? Achashverosh and Ishtam B'Kelim Beis Hamikdash. Good. Now, why al kacha? Why was he using the Kelim Beis Hamikdash? Mishum dechashiv shivim shanim v'layifrik. Remember, his cheshbon, he began from the Golus of Yechanya, the 7. He figured out the 70, and according to his cheshbon, the Jews weren't being redeemed, and he felt, I can bring it out, right? I bring it out. What happened as a result? When Belshazzar brought him out, he died that night. We said he stayed alive, but who died that night? The Katla Vashti, he killed Vashti. So very geschmack, guys, right? Marohu, he saw something, and because of seeing that thing, he acted, and as a result of the action, what happened? Right? Those are the three things, very geschmack. So therefore, that's the one who says Achashverosh. That's Rabbi Meir's opinion. That's where we pass the mic. Now, Umanya Mish Yehudi, the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Ma Ra'o Mordechai Deikni B'Haman. What did he see in Haman that he angered him? You know why? Al Kacha, because the Shavi Nafshi Avodah Zara. Haman made himself into Avodah Zara. So Memela, because of that, Mordechai did not bow down to. And Mahigi Alayim, this Rachash Nisha, and as a result, and that's happened. Third opinion, Umadi Yoma Mi'achad Dvarim Me'ele, Maro Haman Sheniskana B'Chol Yehudim. What did he see that he hated all the Jews? What caused that? Al Kacha, because Mordechai lo yichrav lo yishtachveh. He didn't prostrate himself, bet down himself. Umahigi Alayim. So what happens as a result of this? Him and the sons end up hanging around. Right? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Why did he do that? To bring the Sefer Chazvainis? Al Kacha, because there's a Nisa Esther Lahama and Badei. Remember the Gemara. He was suspicious. Why is he inviting Esther? Esther inviting him and Haman? Perhaps they're plotting to kill me. And somebody must know, and they don't want to inform me. So he came up with the plan of making this public hakaras hatoiv, so anyone who would know the plan would tell him. So very geschmack. Maro, that what? What did he see that he brought out the Seiches Rainos? He saw that he was invited to this party, And what happened as a result of coming to the party? Magia alayim this rachesh nisa. It's a very geschmack the way guys the words ro kacha and vegiu, right? How it all fits in. So we have two opinions. Either it's the toikif, right? It's the toikif that pasuk or maro. Either way, we have a four-way machlokes. Rabbi the whole Megillah, Rabbi Yehuda Meish Yehudi, Rabbi Yosi from Achad Var Me'ela, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai to get up from B'layla Hu. And now the Gemara Rav Chelbo, Rav Chama, Rav Gurya, Rav Halacha K'direi Oimer Kula. The halacha is like Rav Meir, who says that what you have to say the whole thing. The halacha is a Meir, you have to say the whole thing. Good. Even if the man says you can be Yotzim Mish Yehudi, we saw this yesterday. You have to have the whole Megillah. Right? We spoke about the beginning and the ends. If it's missing, it can only be missing in the middle. But if it doesn't have the beginning or an end, it's not a sefer, right? It has to be a sefer. It has to be a sefer. Megillah Nikras Sefer, Nikras Igeres. A Megillah is called a sefer and it's called a Igeres. Nikras Sefer, Shem Tafru Bechute Pishnim Psula. A sefer Torah, fellas, you have to use the sinews of an animal, a kosher animal. You cannot use what? Pishtin. You can't use flax. So similar to a sefer Torah, that it can only be sewn with sinews, so too a Megillah can only be sewn with sinews, right? The Nikri Igeres, it's called the Igeres. Shem Hittel Bashloisha Chute Gidin Kshera. If you put three sinews, it's kasha. I looked at my Megillah. My Megillah has 3 uriyas. 1, 2, 3, and it's divided up. As Mashen Ken Sefer Torah has many, many more. Amar of Nachman, Ubevad Shei Mishulashin, provided that it's Mishulish. There's a halacha over here that I'm very, very unclear of. There's a 3 machlokes exactly how it has to be sewn. I looked up the halacha. I touched the words. I didn't understand what's going on. The easiest pshat is Rashi. You're equidistant, quarter from the top, middle, this and that. So there's 4 halakim that equidistant from each other. I did see some interesting halachas. The difference between a geres and a sefer. A sefer has to do with the guf of the Megillah itself. In other words, the actual physical Megillah. So a sefer, it has to have sirtut. Megillah has to have sirtut, which again is scratching in the guf of sefer. It has to be written on klaf. It has to be written on parchment. Not that's a sefer. And finally, it has to be right. It has to be written with dayoy, black ink. Right. This is all halachas in the sefer. There is an opinion of the Ramban and the Ritva that it has to be the ibud, the tanning of the klaf has to be lishma, the shame, the Megillah, that again would have a halacha in the sefer. The Rambam disagrees vis-a-vis that last halacha. But again, a sefer would be in the physical aspect. What do you mean igeres? Igeres means that you could read it while sitting, not standing. So in other words, it's not the guf of the Megillah, it's in the person. There's no trup. If you're laying the Megillah without trup, or you don't stop between the psukim, you would be yaitza, similar to an igeres, As a matter of fact, I found fascinating. The Tosfos Harash says that, therefore, the unique trup that is to Megillah is to show that it's an igeres. We have a Messiah on a trup for a Sefer Torah. Why did they change that? That you shouldn't think it has the same din as a Sefer Torah. The unique trup of the Megillah, says the Tosfos Harash, is to show that it's an igeres, it's not a Sefer Torah. It's geschmack pshat, very geschmack. And that's why, fellas, if it's missing words in the middle, that's an igeres, not a Sefer Torah. So very geschmack, the chilukim, halachically, the way to organize it, the comparison to a Sefer is in the physical. The comparison of the Sefer is the physical, right? Is in the physical, right? The comparison to the Sefer is in the physical, right? That's in the physical, but what? But the igeres part is what is non-physical. Okay, guys. Okay, so very good shmak. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, 2 lines from the bottom. Hakoyra b'Megillah haksuva men haksuvim. We have in shul, we have a book, the Tanakh, right? Torah Nevi'im Ksuvim. We have a book, the Torah Nevi'im Ksuvim. They used to have a sefer of the whole thing, correct? So let's say you would read the Megillah. You get to, let's say, Shir Shirim Eicha Megillah. If you'd read the Megillah from that long, lengthy ksav, that has other books in there, you would not be Yaitza. You would not be Yaitza. Says Rashi why? About 5 lines from the bottom. Lo Yatza. The Be'inani Geris La'atzma. You need a letter for itself. The Mefarsing Nisa Tfei, because that is Pirsum Nisa more. That will go ahead and show what the Nes more. The Chikoira Ben Aksuvim, when you read it among the other books, Nira Kikoira B'Mikra. It appears if just you're reading from a sefer, you're just reading along. So you go from, it appears, but by going ahead and having it as a separate sefer, it creates I'm dafka mefarsim the mess of the Megillah. And as we're going to see, Bez Hashem, Pirsumei Nisa is a very, very major part of the Megillah. So therefore, if you read it Bein Megillah, if it's one long sefer and you read the Megillah among it, you would not be Yaitza. If it's not longer or shorter, purta, a little bit of machasam yasa purta less than ba. In other words, if let's say you have the klaf, and when you get to the Megillah part, the Esther part, it's a little bigger or a little shorter, that will be enough of a differentiation that I'm reading it l'shem Megillah and not stama zoi, that it's part and parcel of Tanakh, and therefore what you will be yaitza. Levi by Shmuel Havi Kokori Kamei the Rabbi Yehuda Megillah Amid Beis. He was reading in front of from the Aksuvim and Aksuvim. He was reading from Megillah that was part of the other book. Amalei. So what? So Rabbi Yehuda told Levi by Shmuel, Hari Amru Hakarib Megillah Aksuvim and Aksuvim Lo Yatza. You won't be Yatza. You know, it's this Lamaisa. He wasn't Yatza. Amr B'chi Barabba Amr B'Yachanan Hakarib Megillah Aksuvim ben Aksuvim Lo Yatza. Okay, I think we know that by now. However, a very interesting lashon. And he hit himself on the head. That's dafka b'tzibor. In other words, the lashon he hit himself on his head. Like 1 second, it's not a universal halacha across the board. That's only if you read it b'tzibor. But if you read it privately, right? If you read it privately, then you would be yaitza. You would be yaitza. Turi Evans says this is only going on the Yud Aleph Yud Beis Yud Gimel guys, not on the Yud Dalet Tesvav guys. Again, the reason we're bringing this in is second because of the similarities in lashon. The Rav Chia bar Abba says in the Rabbi Yochanan, leaving over by a Sefer Torah, the top and the bottom. The Sefer Torah, fellas, we sew it, but we sew it, let's say, from the middles, and we leave over a little bit on the top. Practically, why? Because if it will be sewn on top and bottom and real tight, you could rip it. But now that it's open a little bit, if you'd see it ripping, you'd stop. By going ahead and having the tops not sewn together, if you pull it too tight, they begin to fall apart. So therefore, it's a practical reason. And he said it's halacha l'moshe Sinai. So he hit himself on the head, and that's why we're bringing this in. The whole reason we said it is not halacha l'moshe Sinai. The reason we said it is that it shouldn't rip. It was for practical reasons. And the reason we brought this in was because of the lashon what? That he hit himself in his head. Now, we know that Moshe and Eliyahu, they both had a Gilui Shechina, where Kadosh Baruch Hu passed in front of them, Kaviyachol. They said, they were in caves. And Rashi brings they were in the same cave. But the Kadosh Baruch Hu passed on the outside, and it was totally black in the cave. If there was a little crack in the cave, they wouldn't be able to stand there, as the Gemara says right now. There's different ways you can go ahead and sew. So you can sew like a big thick one or a thin one. This is a thin sewing. Because of the Ora Shechina, they wouldn't be able to be there. No person can see me and live. Another statement in his name, it says, this is speaking by what? By the second Luchos, guys, by the second Luchos. He showed them in the Moshe all the ribuyim, the lashon of S, right? The lashon of Gam and S, and all the miutim, Rak and Ach, right? He showed them the Rak and the Ach, right? He showed them that. Rashi brings Rishonim, Digdukim of the Rishonim Machroinim. I'm not exactly sure what that means. That's Soifrim that's Soifrim with Mechach in the future. So Moshe was revealed all the Torah that would be in the future by his descendants. He was not descendants, but Klal Yisrael, and even Moshe was aware of Mikra Megillah. He was aware of this as well. Okay, I think what we're going to do now, I'm just going to do the Mishnah, and then I want to speak out something, and then because the Gemara, it will be able to flow. It's a Shabbos, it'll flow better if we just begin again. But the covered Shabbos Kodesh, the covered, you have a very geschmack piece of Torah over here. Hakol Ksher and Liquor says on Megillah, everyone is kosher to read the Megillah. Chutz micheresh shaita b'katan, with the exception of a cheresh shaita b'katan. Rabbi Yehuda machshe b'katan. Now, stam azay, fellas, when we say a cheresh is a person who can't hear nor speak. So obviously over here, we can't be speaking about the classic cheresh because it says hakol ksher and likros, except the cheresh. So it must be this cheresh has the ability to speak. He just can't hear. So he really is an elam. It's a cheresh. He's really, no, elam is a mute. I'm sorry, he's not an elam. He's a cheresh. He can't hear. So obviously he could over here. So according to this, Rabbi Yehuda would say it's kasha by cotton, and Chum say not. Okay, we'll get back to Ezra Hashem. Now, I'd like to go ahead and discuss the following with you. Let me get it on the screen. Right? Let me get this on the screen. This. Okay, so now you could all see this. Yes, no, maybe.
Yes.
Okay, how are you? Okay, I'm not going to make it bigger. I'm just leaving it as it is because once I start patching around with it, it gets messed up. Hakol Ksher Likus Megillah. Be'erchin Darshu B'chol Mokim. Every place, right? Every place. Let me make it big. I can't see it. Okay, very good. It says in Erchin, Masech Erchin, Darshu B'chol Mokim Sheniska B'Mishnayos Lashon Hakol. Anytime it says the Lashon of Hakol. Ma bola rabbis, what does it come to include? We just had the Lashon Gan, right? Lashon inclusions, Moshe Rabbeinu. Nemar shebola rabbis nashim. So a kol ksher and likus Megillah, this would mean, says the Gemara in Erchin, that even women are kosher to learn the Megillah. Guys, you hear this? The Erchin, hakol ksher and likus Megillah. In Erchin, it tells us hakol means even women can learn the Megillah. Shegam chayeves from Megillah mishum afheim hayabayis nes. They were part of the nest and the mechuyev. For Rashi be'erchin sham dibra maskal asuye pirish. Shebola rabbis shenosim gam ksheris likras Megillah ulahaitzi zacharim yidecha basan. A woman can get up and be mitzi amin yidechiyav. Says Rashi when it says a kol ksher likras Megillah, even woman will be able to be mitzi man yidecha basan. Ach Taisus disagrees and he brings the shame by Hilchas Gedailis shesavar sheim mitzi es anashim. Women can't be mitzi men. Behavi raya lekach shebetoisefta nema shenoshim beturis mikro Megillah. And the women are parted from reading it. Ubira bal hilchos gedolos sheachiv shalehem hu rak chayves shemias kriyas Megillah. She'afhem hoyu b'sakana aval ein behem chayves kriya. They don't have the chiyuv to go ahead and lane. They don't have the chiyuv to go ahead and lane. That's what he tells us. Okay, so the Achroinim, the Rishonim, they're all niskasha. What exactly is the reason for what? For women, this din of the Hilchas Gedolos. You make this chilik. On one hand, they're mechuyev to go ahead and hear the Megillah. On the other hand, they're not mechuyev to read the Megillah. So men who are mechuyev in reading, right? Only a man can be mitzi. But women who are not mechuyev in reading, only mechuyev shmiya, they have a different halacha of going. The question is, where does the Baal Hilchos Gedolos get the schiyah from? We know one thing. We were all in the same, of the parsha of Lahashmid, Lahareg, I say Yehudim, we were all in the same boat. Hitler was going to kill all of us, Haman was going to kill all of us. So where does the Baal Hilchos Gedolos get the schiyah? So we gave shir many years ago on a Marcheshes. Marcheshes is found in Siman Chav Beis in the first chelik, and he says a beautiful, beautiful deher. He makes a chilik based upon our Gemara. We've seen that the connection between that you can't read it al peh. Why? Because we compared Kasav Zeis Basef, we compared the Megillah to what? To the Zichrein of Mechias Amalek. And just like we said the other day, Mechias Amalek can't be believed because it says Zocha v'lei tishkach. Once it says lei tishkach, it can't be believed, but Zocha, it's got to be bepeh. So too, therefore, what? Megillah has to be bepeh. Nimtza, that the Zechira of a bepeh has to do very much with the Mechias Amalek. In addition, right, we saw yesterday that there's an Indian Pesumei Nisa. We said that even if a person does not understand Lashon Kodesh, you can read the Megillah. Why? Because we saw two opinions, either because women don't understand the Amaratzim, but we said, even us, we can't even read Ashtarkanim, Berecharachim. We don't know what they are either. But Mishum Pesumei Nisa, we read it. Nimsa says the Macheshes, it's underlined over here. HaMegillah yesh bo shnei mitzvahs. The Megillah has two mitzvahs. Chad mishum persumei anes, v'oid mishum mitzvah sechira shetiknu anshe knesset hagadayla lischa b'yom zeh al yidei akriya shel HaMegillah mishum ma'aser shehaya. V'zeh bira divrei Gemara atu anan ha'shtacharanim umi adinan el mitzvahs kriya persumei nisa. Harishayesh Megillah shtei mitzvahs. Hainu kriya upesumei nisa. There's a mitzvah to read it and a mitzvah to mefarsen the nes. As we said. So I think we've established, listening to me, based on the words of Marcheshes, there's two dinim. There's a din of kriya and a din of pesumei nisa. And we're now coming to explain about Hilchas Gedailas, who says there's a din of men for reading and women for hearing. V'hine, b'din mitzvah sechira mechias amalek kosav achinuch Seif Perak Parshas Teitzei, Shanasim loy nitztavu al zeh. Women are not mechuyev to go ahead and kill out Amalek, guys. Women are not mechuyev to kill out Amalek. Why? Mishum she'ena b'nois milchama. They're not b'nois milchama. They don't go to war. Ve'ena mitzvahs al mitzvahs mechias Amalek, and they're not mitzvah in the mitzvah of killing Amalek because they don't physically kill. Al kain ena gam kain b'mitzvahs sechira yayin sham. Therefore, says the chinuch, they're not in the mitzvah of schiras Amalek. In other words, the din of Parshas Zacha, like the chinuch, does not apply to women. Why? Because the din of Zeicher is only ones that go to war. Since women don't go to war, they're not in this mitzvah. So what do you see? That the mitzvah of schira is connected to the mitzvah of mechia. In Cain, reading the Megillah also as an aspect of Zechira. In Cain Benashim, Avshem Mechuyeves B'Mikra Megillah, Hainu Rak Mishum Pesumei Anes. They're only the second aspect, that aspect of Pesumei Anes, Mishum Gam Cain Haya B'Oisei Anes. Aval Mitzvah Zechira Ein Behem. There's no mitzvah for them to be masquerade. Why? Because the mitzvah of Zechira is totally in the mitzvah of Mechia. And since they're not in the mitzvah of Mechia, they're not in the mitzvah of Zechira. In Cain is bar b'zeh hated. We can explain very well. Das habal hilchas gedailos. Sheinashim mechuyaves rak b'shmiyas hamegillah. V'hainu kiven de ikar chiyuvam hu mishum persumei anes. Since the ikar chiyuv of women is what is mishum persumei anes. In Cain dailahem b'shmiyah. It's enough levad. It's enough for him to just hear it alone. Shezeh have a pirsum. Again, publicity. All you have to do is hear. You don't have to read. Besides from the mitzvah of Persumei Anes, Chayavim Gam came the mitzvah Sechira. They're also mechuyev in the mitzvah of mentioning Bezel Chiyav Kriya. Sechira, as we saw, is the mitzvah of Kriya. Again, guys, you're not Yotz Al Peh. You have to read it from a sefer. We learned that word from the mitzvah of the Mechias Amalek. It's very geschmack. Why women can't be mighty men? If the mitzvah sechira less than who, since they don't have the mitzvah of sechira, because they don't have the mitzvah of mechia, and Cain having ena mechuyavis bedava, they're not mechuyav. The ena yechilas loheitzi and nashim shechuyavis gam came in mitzvah sechira. Pella ployim, a wonderful, wonderful interpretation of the Marcheshes. Guys, the Marcheshes was of Henech Egis. He was the oldest dayan on the Vilna Bezdin. My Rosh Hashiva was Meshamishim. He was killed by the Nazis. Yimach Shemam. He was an amazing, amazing man. Rav Moshe Maruch Zatzal, who used to attend Ashir, he told me, in our generation, there was no one with the midas of the Marcheshes. In our generation, there was no one with the midas of the Marcheshes. And he told me, you know why? Because in his generation, there was no one with the midas of the Marcheshes. In his generation, there wasn't. It was just amazing. And he said over, my Rebbe said over about Marcheshes, it seems Marcheshes had political leanings. I think he was a Zionist. Marcheshes was a bit of a Zionist. And I'll quote you. One person one day came over to Marcheshes and called him a Meshugana from his political leanings. And I said to him, Shiva said, Bezel Lashim, Avada the Marcheshes is Moichelim Gevarin. Avada the Marcheshes is Mispal Ganathem. He certainly was Moichelim, and Avada he davened for him. Of a Gonish Gehelfen, it didn't help. The mentions Gestorben Amisa Meshuna, the person died a horrible death. To give you an idea what the Marcheshes was. So beautiful pshat to explain the Hilchas Bahag, right, guys? What's the Hilchas Bahag? Akol Chayav Mekris Megillah. We have over here. Akol Ksher Likris is on Megillah. You might think woman. Says Rashi Enochanami. Says Rashi yes. Says Tosfos not. Tosis quotes the Baal Hilchos Gedolos. There's only women have only a mitzvah of shmiya. They don't have a mitzvah of kriya. Marcheshes is coming to explain why the yaitz in the mitzvah of shmiya, why the only shmiya and kriya. Very beautifully, he says in the mitzvah of Megillah, there's two things. There's the mitzvah of schira and the mitzvah of presuming nisa. Schira is toli mechias amalek. How do you know that? Because you can't be yaitz al peh to the dimyon to Parshas Zacha. Parshas Zacha is only bepeh because it says al tishchach. That's belay, like tishchach. That's belay. So Zacha must be bepeh. Schira peh is mechias amalek. Women are not mechuyev, says the Sefer Chinuch Mechias Hamalek. Since women are not mechuyev in the Sefer Mitzvah Mechias Hamalek, extrapolates the Marcheshes that women are not mechuyev also in the mitzvah of Zechiras Hamalek. Memela, the Megillah has two aspects: one of Zechira, one of Pesumei Nisa. Women are only mechuyev the Pesumei Nisa part. That you can be yotzei with Shmiya and not Kriya, and therefore they can't be Motzim in. I think it's a gewaltige way to enter Shabbos.
Can you post about
Hesh, you go first.
Thank you. Can Isha be mitzvah another Isha though? She can lay them for another Isha.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, according to that, a woman can mitzvah another woman. But now it could be not. It could be there's no mitzvah. Yeah, l'chayri, yeah. Yes. Rabbi?
Can you post the Baal Halachos Gedolos, the piece that you put on the screen now?
Can I post it? How would I do that? I'll send it. Yeah, I'll send it to the. Yeah, sure. I'll post it. Okay, have a great Shabbos, guys. It's Shabbos again. There'll be 30ish in that time. Does it work better earlier or a little later? I don't know which way to go. Later is better.
What's your address?
Early. Let's get the point earlier.
Depends if you want me in the car or not.
For sure. There's no shaila. I don't recognize you might to Shabbos outside. Okay, have a good Shabbos,
Rabbi.
Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Shabbos was tiny. You should go have something.